Former Chief Attorney for Jersey City, William Matsikoudis, pointed out Jersey City Mayor Steven Fulop's shortcomings and explains why he is an ideal candidate for mayor.
Well, let's hope it's in May, first of all. We think that we will have some success keeping the election in May, but we're going to try our best. Look, I didn't think that I'd be running. I've always thought about running for office because public service is what fulfills me. I left one of New Jersey's most prominent law firms when I was 30 years old and embarked on a 12-year career in public service, working in the governor's office as a deputy attorney general, and then here at City Hall as the city's chief attorney. And we made a lot of good things happen here. You know, we sued polluters to make them clean up brownfields and turn them into parks and development. We promulgated legislation to stem the flow of illegal guns onto our streets, and I defended the law against the NRA all the way to the Supreme Court, worked on sustainability ordinances, brought in great young lawyers and trained them, had an amazing time. There seems to be an opening here for someone to make it the difference that I think Jersey City needs. And I haven't been particularly happy with the way the city's been run over the last few years. And I think I have the skill set, the experience, the temperament to be a good mayor. And the city's been enjoying sustained and essentially uninterrupted economic development for the past 20 years, right? And I think the best thing I could say about him is that he hasn't completely messed that up. Let's start with appointments. Mayor Bloomberg said it right. A chief executive, like a mayor or a president, the most important thing they can do is appoint quality people. Now, there are some people in the administration I like and I think are quality, but he's had to dismiss 6 people because of scandals. Everyone knows that there's been political appointments. You look at his chief of police that he had to fire within 10 months, who devastated the morale in the police department. I had a brother who was a cop for 25 years. I know the police force. They couldn't believe this appointment, and arguably that's the most important appointment. So his appointments have been atrocious. They've been based on politics, not merits. That's why he's ballooned the budget with an extraordinary amount of patronage hires. He raised taxes as soon as he walked in the door by a substantially high amount, and then he's kept the budget balanced over the last couple of years with some gimmicks and enjoying that reoccurring revenue from the tax increase, and tried to say that, oh, look, we're not increasing taxes, as if the really attuned voter is going to believe that. I think the most atrocious lack of leadership by the mayor was to cancel the reval. And what he did by canceling the property tax revaluation was he allowed poor people, largely of color, in the city's less developed areas to essentially subsidize the wealthier homeowners in this city. That was an outrage. And he did it based upon a lie, a complete red herring. He does this frequently. He makes things up. He doesn't follow the law. And I think he can only get away with it for so long.
Can you talk to me about the current state of abatements in Jersey City?
I think at a minimum, there's one change we have to make. And we have to make sure that the law is revised so that any abatements that are given, the proceeds are shared with the schools. I was somebody who used to say, look, these buildings, a lot of them don't have kids. Well, thankfully that's changed, right? People are staying in Jersey City. They're sending their kids to the schools. There's really zero justification for the city to keep all that money. Now we have to share some of it with the county, but we should share it with the schools. And we also know, whether it's Chris Christie's crazy plan, which will never happen, but even other talk in Trenton about cutting school aid to Jersey City, that we're going to have to find another revenue source. So we simply cannot proceed anymore without sharing abatement revenue with the schools. An abatement should never be given unless it's absolutely necessary to get a development to happen. It should only be given but for. In other words, but for the abatement, the development won't happen. I think municipal officials are quick to give out abatements sometimes, and we may have been guilty of that ourselves back when I was working here, because you don't have to share the revenue with the schools, right? And you give a little bit to the county. So actually the city many times is making out better from a revenue perspective than it would with conventional taxes, because it's keeping it all, at least in the initial years. So making it necessary and required that the revenue from abatements gets shared with schools is good for education, and it's going to make sure that the city isn't relying on an abatement to plug a budget gap when it shouldn't otherwise be given.
What sets you apart from the other candidates that will be running for mayor?
Well, we don't know who's going to run for mayor, right? The only people that I know of that are raising money specifically for mayor are me and Steve Fulop. At least he's supposed to be. I mean, he's raised $1.2 million dollars or so. He has $75,000 in the bank, and that's because he spent, as Phil Murphy correctly pointed out in his ELEC complaint that he filed yesterday with the Election Law Enforcement Commission, Fulop's been spending all that money to run for governor, whether it's hiring consultants to promote him on a statewide basis or contributing to Democratic Party officials and candidates around the state of New Jersey so he can get the all-important county line. So I think the biggest distinction between me and the potential candidates, at least most of them, like my friends Raj Mukherji and Bill O'Day, is that they're beholden to Steve Fulop. I mean, they said publicly that they won't run if Steve Fulop runs. You know, I look forward to running against Steve Fulop. I predict I will be running against Steve Fulop because I think his gubernatorial ambitions are going to run up on the rocks. If he wins the referendum and loses the primary, which I think is a very possible, if not probable, scenario, he's going to try to come back and run. And, you know, if this referendum either doesn't happen or he loses it, I think he may end up coming back here because he's going to lose support around the state of New Jersey.
Hudson County View, the eye of the community.